The Last of Us Part 1 on PS5 versus PS5 Pro. This game came out on PS3 in 2013. We then got Last of Us Remastered on PS4, and then in 2022 we got to experience this masterpiece for a third time in The Last of Us Part 1 Remake. Being a remake exclusively for PS5, I think Part 1 looks better than Part 2. The visuals are of course some of the best in a PS5 game, and at launch there were some minor performance issues on the base console. All of that's been cleaned up now, and this game also gets a PS5 Pro enhanced patch. So can the PS5 Pro take that Part 1 remake to another level? In terms of graphic modes, there's the usual fidelity and performance. Even the Pro gets those legacy modes. Fidelity targets 4K native resolution at 30 FPS. Both the base console and Pro are exactly the same here. Performance modes 1440p and then gets upscaled to 4K using FSR. Target frame rate 60 FPS, and once again both consoles are the same in performance mode as well. So what exactly is new on the PS5 Pro, you ask? It's the Pro graphics mode. This targets 60 FPS at 1440p native and then gets upscaled to 4K using PSSR. The Pro also gets the advantage with the 120Hz option turned on. I'll cover that a bit later. Here's how the Pro mode compares to Fidelity. The goal here is to run the game at 60 FPS while making it look as good as native 4K. Does the PS5 Pro accomplish that? Almost. If you look closely, native 4K is still slightly better, but you know what? PSSR works really well here by making 1440p look almost as good as native 4K. You want to see an even bigger difference? Well, I saw that when comparing performance mode on the base console to the Pro mode in PS5 Pro. Both are 60 FPS, both are 1440p native, but the PSSR upscaling on PS5 Pro is a lot better. The difference here is clear. Sure, I'm zooming in 4 times to exaggerate the improvement, but if you have a large 4K OLED TV like a LG C4, it's easy to see and appreciate the PS5 Pro advantage. Now let's talk about the performance, the FPS. I'm quickly covering those older fidelity and performance modes first. Fidelity mode on both consoles is locked to 30 FPS, no issues here. Same thing with performance mode, both consoles are locked to 60 when you're playing in that default 60 Hz mode. The real side-by-side comparison is really when we see that new Pro mode on the PS5 Pro versus fidelity and performance mode on the base console. I don't see a reason for anyone to even select that 30 FPS fidelity mode here on the PS5 Pro. I mean, at 4K upscaled with PSSR and 60 FPS, the game looks pretty much as good as native 4K. The only time there's a drop of a single frame is during cutscenes. It's really when the camera angle changes during cutscenes, and the pattern sort of repeats on both the base console and the PS5 Pro. Let's have a look at that 120Hz mode. You do need a capable display like a LG C4, and no, this video is not sponsored by LG. Fidelity mode in 120Hz bumps the FPS to around 40 FPS. Of course, my TV is showing 119 since 40 is below that BRR range of 48. Performance mode is shown here in 120Hz. PS5 Pro gets an average of around 100 FPS in those high demand outdoor areas. When you're indoors, lower demand areas, well, it's locked to 120 FPS. Now the base console isn't shown on the screen, but that gets about 15 to 25 FPS lower than the Pro. Pro mode, which uses PSSR, does make the game look better, but the average frame rate now is lower, about 70 to 80 FPS when you're outdoors, but indoors Pro mode still manages close to 120 FPS. So if you're all about numbers, the Pro clearly makes the game look better and also runs it at a higher FPS. I did compare The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered a few weeks ago. That game also ran just like Part 1 between the two consoles. Both these games are good examples of how to do PS5 Pro enhanced correctly. I'm sure when we get brand new games in 2025, the PS5 Pro advantage should be even bigger as developers get familiar with the hardware and optimized games from the get-go. So that was today's comparison. Let me know in the comments what you think. For those die-hard Last of Us fans, are the enhancements for these two games enough for you to consider upgrading to the Pro?
Attention. Checkpoint 5 is now closed until further notice. All civilians must